The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
Kev, we've both been on our hollybobs. I went to France and ate my body weight in croissants for 4 days. I've come back at least 3 stones heavier, I think, Kev. Meanwhile, you were like the picture of health, bodyboarding off the coast of Wales.
I wouldn't say a picture of health. I did bodyboard a little bit off the coast of Wales, although I probably consider it more of just throwing my belly at the waves and terrifying the dolphins and the seals that are flapping around in the sea next to me. But yeah, it was nice. It was a lovely week. Really beautiful weather we had over there in West Wales.
Yeah,
it's nice to be back there.
I think you had better weather than we had in France. There was a couple of occasions I walked down. What's the street? Doesn't matter what the street's called. I walked past the Eiffel Tower anyway, Kevin. It was shrouded in fog. It was a bit like when Gustav built it all those years ago, where you just see the legs and sort of about halfway up disappears. There's nothing there, and it was a bit like that with the fog. There were some mornings. I mean, it made terrific photographs, but you couldn't see it, Kev. I was thinking, where's the top of the Eiffel Tower?
The FujiCast
had disappeared. It was no more. So you obviously had the nicer weather, I think, where you were.
We did, yeah.
Bodyboarding in Wales. Welcome to the FujiCast. Here we are again. We're slightly later on the release of this one. I think we were both getting over our respective holidays. Tell you what, Kev, at our age, I think you need a holiday to get over a holiday.
Yeah, definitely.
So
you certainly need to give your bank account a holiday afterwards.
That's true. You might have to go back into weddings, Kev. Has it got that bad for you? Right, welcome to the FujiCast. You and your questions that you're sending in to click@fujicast.co.uk or via the Facebook group, which Kev handles. Is it getting any easier, Kev? Facebook?
It is actually. Neil, bless him, has kept the little spreadsheet up to date. So I'm not actually going onto the Facebook to look at the questions, which is even better. Although I need to sometimes when there's images attached.
You're just doing it all off the spreadsheet.
Well, I am at the minute, unless Neil hasn't added any. So I'm just assuming he has.
No, well, I'm
assuming the £10 we give him every 5 years is enough.
Neil is diamond, so I know that he will be on top of that, and it will be absolutely organised. That's for sure. Before we start, a mention for our sponsors, Pick Time. Both myself and Kev use them to show our wares, to show our pictures that we make at events. In my case, weddings. In your case, weddings. The weddings are still there, Kev. But I would imagine rapidly you'll start to put other stuff up there as well, won't you? What stuff's going up there these days? Commercial work, maybe?
Yeah, no. The last thing I put up was a family shoot. Yeah, that was the last work I did.
Yeah. That was 2 months ago, Kev.
I know. Yeah. I haven't done much. Been nice.
What is a day? I'm intrigued. What is a day in the life of a Kev at the moment? In fact, let's come back to that. Hold on. Hold those thoughts. Pick Time is a fantastic place to put your galleries if you want to show your pictures after shoots. Wedding shoots, absolutely perfect. It's a no-brainer, as they say. I've been using it, and Kev's been using it for years and years and years and years. It's a great way to champion your images. It's like a mini website in itself. In fact, you can style it pretty much that way, can't you, Kev?
Yeah, you can do pretty much everything with it. Some people just use PicTime as their website, the blogging and all that kind of stuff. Whereas you and I both use it mostly for galleries and selling prints and albums and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's quite incredible, really, because it's such a young company in real terms. I don't know exactly how long they've been going, but I'm going to guess kind of
4 or 5 years,
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I think it was a baby of lockdown, wasn't it? I think.
Oh, was it?
I'm not 100% sure.
I'm pretty sure I was showing stuff on PicTime before lockdown, but yeah, tomato.
Maybe,
whatever.
Let's call it 5 or 6 years then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the stuff they've done in that time and embraced the AI elements of, kind of from galleries design through to automating sales, etc., is quite incredible. Yeah. They've got a big team working there, and it's I'm always a little bit nervous when I kind of subscribe substantial amount of money to companies that are very important for my business. What happens if they go away? But I have no I have as much confidence with PicTime as I do with Dropbox, really.
Pick-time.com is the website address to go to. If you put in FujiCast when you go to sign out, you get 1 month free of charge, which can't be bad. And then you can be a part of PicTime as well and show your stuff online, like what the pros do, Kev, like what the pros do. Right, should we go for questions? Do you want to start with Facebook or shall I start with an email question?
I'll start. Brad Jones says, "Hi Kev, hi Neil. Hopefully posting my question in the right thread this time. Sorry about that." Yeah, so he was the one that pushed my lever so fast that I had to delete the previous year's thread. Anyway, he's back. And he says, curious what advice you might have on how best to study or learn from photography books.
Oh.
Quite a simple question.
Well, when he says how to study or learn from photo books, do you mean the more sort of text-driven ones with more technical stuff in them, or do you mean just looking at images and devouring images in photo books? What do you think he means?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's no more context to it, but I'm reading into that photo books rather than education books.
Yeah. Well, so you were a book collector before I was. I became a book collector a little bit by accident, actually, and now I have I think a decent library. But you really did. You started collecting long before me. What made you buy what books you did, and what do you think you learned from them? And what ones did you go to in terms of sort of daily refreshing or refreshing daily your sort of creative urges?
I don't know whether I ever bought any to learn from them. Not photo books. Yes, certainly some of the like, for example, Matt's street photography book, that kind of stuff is a learning exercise. Yeah. But the photo books, which I think Brad is referring to, more like your kind of historical documents, don't think I ever really bought them to learn from them. But I certainly bought them to look at the images and maybe understand a bit more about composition, moment, and all of that kind of stuff. But I don't really ever pick those books up and think, I don't obviously do a wedding anymore, but even when I was, I never used to pick them up and think, I've got a wedding tomorrow, let's have a look at these 1940s war pictures and see how I can bring that into my wedding work. So yeah, for me, it's not really the true essence of the art photo book, at least, is not about learning but about enjoyment. Ultimately that's it, isn't it? I guess it's a little bit like a musician who buys records. My friend Disco Dave across the way here, he's an incredible musician, and he's got a massive record library. Yeah. And he says that he doesn't buy records to try and figure out how they played a chord or put this song together. He buys them because he wants to listen to them. Yeah. So I suppose it's an escape in that respect, isn't it? So, from an art photo book point of view, I think it's more just about enjoyment and being in the moment, looking at them, I guess.
Learning and inspiration being bed partners in many ways. There is a book that I feel maybe have inspiration from in many respects that I've just thought, oh, right, okay, so it did take a few shots to get from there to there, because I think you can be very hard on yourself thinking, right, every shot's got to be a banger, the Instagram world that we live in, where you only ever see the great stuff, you never see the journey. Magnum Contact Sheets still remains, I think, quite an inspirational, and I think that's quite an educational book as well. I think you've got that one, haven't you? The Contact Sheets, where you look through famous Magnum photographers' works, and then you think,
and you're right.
Yeah,
absolutely right. I mean, you do look at that and kind of get an inference of what goes into making an image. But I wouldn't class that as an art book. And I suppose we're making boundaries over, what does Brad refer to? What's he referring to?
But if you're talking about learning, I think this is a great book to learn from. And if you learn, you can see how photographers develop a story in front of them, where they move. Often you see where they move. You can tell they're moving around a subject to try and find the best angle. That can be, I think that's quite a good way of learning from the masters, as it were. Mm-hmm. Talking of the masters, have you watched the film called Lee yet, about Lee Miller?
No, it's still only on in the cinema, isn't it?
No. And this is what I thought, Kev. I thought, I've missed that. Dash, I wanted to see it. And Sam said, it'll be on the telly now. I said, no, it won't. It's not been released long enough. And it's on, I think it's on Sky Cinema. I don't know if you get Sky Cinema, in the UK anyway. It's on Sky Cinema, and I haven't watched the whole thing yet. We've been watching it in bits. It's a cracking film.
I've heard mixed reviews, I've got to say. I don't have Sky Cinema, so I'll have to wait till it comes out on Netflix. But I have heard mixed. Some people have said, "Oh, it's amazing," and other people have said it's trite.
Trite.
So don't know.
Well, I think there's.
But then I haven't read it. I haven't watched it, so I can't really.
I think there's an element of.
I will watch it.
Yeah, there's an element of melancholy in it. In the she went through a lot, and I don't want to throw. There's a twist right at the end. A person sits down to
ruin it.
I'm not going to ruin it, but I'm going to say a person sits down to essentially interview her, and that person. Anyway, I won't say any more, Kev, because that could ruin it. But yeah, books, glorious books. You still collect them, don't you? Or have you stopped collecting them so much now? Do you not collect them so much?
No, I would still. We went up to St David's when I was away with my parents, and they got some nice bookshops there, but I didn't find anything I wanted. So, but yeah, I'm always keep my eye out for stuff.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I really love, and I'm very lucky to have them. There's a whole pile of Life magazines, and I feel very having a look through those. They're amazing. Anyway. Right, let's go to email. This one is from Alex Hackney. Hello, my friend, says Alex. Hope all is well. My question is simple. Look, we're starting with simple questions, Kev. What are you guys looking forward to photographing now that we are well into fall and winter is around the corner? Do you enjoy trying to capture the colours of the fall foliage or hunting out ice in the winter to do some macro? What gets you guys going when the weather turns cold? Looking forward to your thoughts. Love the show, no matter what ChatGPT says. Oh, yeah, it roasted us, didn't it, the other day? So I'm looking forward to doing some macro this winter. I've been talking about it on the other little podcast of doing a bit more macro work. And I've got your 60mm. Is it 60 or is it 90? I think I've got the 90, haven't I, Kev?
60.
Is it the 60?
No, you got the 60.
60. And I haven't.
You got the 60 2.7.
That's the one. I haven't used it for a good few months now, but I thought I'm going to have a go at some macro this winter. I quite like. I mean, I go out for a lot of walks. You're not really a photo walky person, though, are you? In many respects, or do you?
Not in that respect. I mean, I don't. I wouldn't take a walk along the river or anything with a view to taking pictures. I mean, I might take pictures, but I wouldn't go for that reason. Right. So for me, nothing really changed. I still have all my cameras set to black and white, and for me, it's about people. Always has been. But yeah, I mean, what they're doing in different times of the year can be interesting for sure, 100%. But I don't think I have any kind of considered. It's winter, or it's autumn. The leaves are looking nice, and I mean, to be totally honest with you, it feels like all the seasons are the same in the UK these days. Yeah. It's been a warm old. We were sat outside the pub after fireworks night. Yeah. Sat outside, having a drink. It was that warm. So, I don't know. I don't really. I'm certainly not. There's a chap in Malmesbury, a lovely bloke, who whenever it snows, and we haven't had snow for a few years now, but whenever it snows, he's out and he's kind of getting all these lovely, and they are lovely pictures. Does make lovely pictures, and I just look at them. He posts them on Facebook by about 6:30 in the morning, and I just look at them there and think, yeah, that's amazing. Brilliant. Okay. Look at them from my bed.
You're so photographically romantic.
Show Jabba. Look at these lovely pictures of Malmesbury in the snow.
Yeah, and then turn over again.
Yeah. No, not yet.
No, not yet. Yeah. It's too cold. Let's go back to sleep. Mally, Mally Davis, my friend Mally of the Trees. He gets really excited on foggy days. And he looks at the weather forecast in my area and says, "Are you out in Savernake Forest?" No, I'm not. I'm just getting ready to go for a dog walk. You should have been there since 6 o'clock. The fog's been out. He loves fog. He gets very, very excited, unnecessarily so, some might say, at fog. And probably, yeah. I like, we haven't had, do you know, you're right, we haven't had snow for years, Kev. Why don't we have snow anymore? What's going on? Oh, that's right, global warming, which apparently doesn't exist. Oh. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing some macro in the winter. But I'm the same as you. I like a nice fall foliage, but I'm not I don't go marching off into the woods thinking, right, I've got to get all these colours.
There's some people who make some beautiful pictures.
Oh,
and, I think I feel like you need to be in the right part of the world as well, and be prepared for it. For sure, I'm just not that. I'm not motivated in that way.
You're more of the rollover. It's cold. Let's go back to sleep. Aren't you?
Yeah,
kind.
That's me.
Right, go on. Yours from the Facebook group.
Okay, Jeremy JB says content creator. That old chestnut again. It's been mentioned more than a few times. He says, what is one? How does one differ from, say, a wedding photographer and also a videographer? Is it a rose by another name? That's a good way of phrasing it. Maybe it's similar to how lots of young people insist on having phone calls, but not holding it to their ear. Instead, talk into it to the bottom whilst on a speakerphone.
I'm not sure if that shows that you've reached a certain age when you start getting humpy about people holding. Why are you holding the phone like that? Because Jack does that, and I always think, well, phone etiquette, Jack. If you held you'd probably hear me better if you held. No, Dad, you don't talk into a phone like that. No, you do, honestly. He wouldn't know. I tell you what, Kev, if there was a normal phone, he wouldn't know what to do with it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to put a dampener on mobile phones, but there was a whole thing when, years back, and I don't think it was ever proved that, if you kept a mobile phone to your brain long enough, you get kind of goblins would grow in your head and things like that. And so a lot of people did speak into them like that in the beginning, and then it kind of went away a bit. And now they do. Yeah, you're right. They do tend to speak into it like that. If my kids did that, I would just tell them, shut up. I don't want to listen to your conversation.
Yeah, but that's it.
Either leave the room or put it on properly.
I get proper grumpy old man when I'm in a train and somebody's having a conversation like that. I'm thinking, put it to your. In fact, I'd still have to listen to you having half a conversation, but I don't really want to listen to you. Please stop it now.
Yeah.
Anyway, where were we in the question?
Anyway, back to Jeremy's question. Essentially, what is a content creator and how does it differ from a wedding photographer who basically takes film clips as well?
Right. Well,
there you go. I'll leave that to you because I'm out of that game, thankfully.
Well, I'm going to look up a wedding
I never came across one.
Well, nor have I yet. Do you think you might have been grumpy about them had they appeared about 4 or 5 years ago? Do you think you'd have been, oh, what's this? It's not proper photography. Would you have got Kev grumpy about it or not?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I would have got grumpy if they'd got in my way and annoyed me. I would have. But actually, if they hadn't, and presumably the ones that are good don't, then no. But I would probably have been grumpy. We've spoken about this recently. I would probably been grumpy about people not having a photographer but having a content creator, instead at a cut rate cost. I have done a little bit of looking into, I don't want to get too kind of depressing about this. I have looked since this whole thing came up, and friends of ours had content creators at their wedding and photographers. I have kind of dug around a little bit with this, and generally they are a lot cheaper than a photographer or a videographer. But it's not the same. It's instant as well.
Yeah, it is instant, but it's not the same thing, is it?
No, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, they're giving clients more choice.
Yeah.
And the people I'm talking to, friends of ours, they were young, they were, that's what they wanted. And I'm not knocking them, I'm not knocking the content creator. I'm saying it's a new thing that is an option on the table for people, and perhaps that's all they want, and I, for each one person who just wants that, I would imagine there's 10, 20, 30 people who want more traditional stuff. So, I would be looking over my shoulder at it. I would say that, but not on the day. On the day, I think as long as they respected my working practices and I respected theirs, then absolutely it's the same as
like having a video
vendor on the day, isn't it?
Wedding content creators are a recent concept aimed at modern couples who don't want to miss a single grammable moment of their life.
Oh God, did you just say grammable?
That's why I'm reading this. They are the one guest at your wedding allowed to have their phone out and aim to capture your day as your guests see it. So I'm assuming they're taking grammable from that. That's been taken from somebody's website who said that. The exciting trend of the wedding content creator in 2024. How much is a content creator for a wedding, Kev? What do you think?
Well, I'm reading
$1,000. I'm reading here, but
I'm reading 400 quid.
400 quid.
Yeah, for somebody paid 400 quid in this BBC News article, which I'll link to in the show notes. A BBC article. She's paid £2,000 for a photographer.
Yeah.
And she paid 400 quid to her content creator who spent 8 hours there and created a 50-second instant thing at the end of the day, and then a 5-minute reel.
Yeah.
So in that regards, it is very similar to videographer, isn't it? Not price wise, but they often do your highlights, kind of a minute and a half highlights, and then give you a longer reel of the speeches and the ceremony and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, everybody has to run a business, don't they? And it's an emerging market. And I would say that 400 quid for 8 hours is ludicrous, but I'm sure there are others who are not charging £400.
Well, I'm the reason why some music burst in across you there is I just for 1 second I called up one of the videos made to have a look at it. I mean, the color. Okay, if you want to get stuff on Instagram straight away, and that is the important thing about how you document your wedding. Fine, that is what you do. I'm looking at the color balance here. It's dreadful, Kev. It's awful. Plastic faces. But then that's not what people are. If your life is grammable, then nobody's bothered about that sort of finer art stuff of color and beautiful
exactly.
black and white.
And when digital cameras came along, people who were shooting film all that time had the same opinion. So. It's just cyclical, isn't it? And so, I mean, good luck to them. If they can make an honest business out of it, then absolutely. But, in terms of working together, on the day, I kind of, without kind of disparaging all of them and tarring them with the same brush, I do get the impression they might get in the way. I can see a kind of crossover of paths and people walking in front of me and things like that. But like I said, I never worked with one, so I can't.
It feels to me a little bit like it's the wedding videographers that are going to be looking more over their shoulders than the photographers, because a lot of this is moving content. It's movies. More than a beautifully, like what you used to do, Kev, and still do, obviously, with your photography, but making a beautiful black and white, which is contrasty, depth, you've got grit, you've got bite to the photograph. None of that will happen with this, at the moment, anyway.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it, at the moment? Who knows where the future will take it?
It's a different product.
Yeah.
But there we go.
As we know, you're right about the videographers perhaps should be looking over both shoulders. But as we know, and this is just a fact, that more people have photographers than they do videographers at weddings.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the exact ratio, but certainly they do. And in fact, this article that I'm reading, there's no mention of her hiring a videographer. She makes a specific point of saying she paid £2,000 for a photographer. Oh. And, she said she just loved being able to see the pictures the next day. I woke up, so this is a quote from the bride. I woke up the next day, I checked my emails. I had an email of Tiffany saying, "Good morning, newlyweds. Here are a few snippets, just getting them all ready for you, and everything will be with you by tomorrow." She felt having a content creator added something very different to the professional photos. So she wasn't, she's not saying replace the professional photos, just added something. So there we go.
I'm still a little bit confused of why you would want a content creator to be the ultimate documenter of this amazing day. It just seems a bit gimmicky, but then I could be, I don't know.
But it's not really, is it?
Is it not? Okay.
It's choice. That's what people...
No, I agree with you that it's choice. Yeah.
And I would imagine, obviously I wasn't there then, but I would imagine when digital came along, people would be like, why would anybody want a digital photographer?
Well, no, I think the two there are very, very close. You're essentially turning out photography. Okay, it's a different medium. You're using film or digital, but you're essentially working like a photographer. This has brought a whole new dimension to it.
But the results are vastly different from film to digital. So in film days, it had to be printed, and the gripe of most film wedding photographers when digital crossed over was that people wouldn't be getting their prints. Why do you want to look at your images on a computer screen? That's a very different, the results are very different. That was the point I'm making, not the actual mechanism of making the photos. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, it'd be very interesting to hear from the kind of the wedding photographers out there who shoot a lot of weddings every year. And I mean the ones who really shoot lots of weddings every year, not the ones who just say they shoot lots of weddings every year. Have they come across content creators, and what's their impressions been so far?
Well, I haven't yet. I am sure I will. I've just typed in wedding content creator Berkshire, which is my home county. There's lots, Kev. Loads and loads and loads of them.
We never really answered Jeremy's question.
What didn't he say?
How does one differ from, say, a wedding photographer and a videographer?
Well,
so the technicalities, really. So all of the images I see of content creators, essentially, they've got their phone on a gimbal, one of those reasonable gimbals that you can control. Just flip it horizontal, vertical, all that kind of stuff, nice and easily.
Yeah.
And that's. Ultimately, I have not seen any of them with any what they call as you use it on your phone for the audio, little muffy things.
Oh, with a dead cats,
windy things. I haven't seen any of the shots of them using those kind of things. So audio wise, I don't know whether it's just they stick a music over the top or something. Don't know, but that's essentially it. Yeah.
There is one here that a luxury wedding content creator. A luxury wedding content creator. 4K. That makes it luxury, Kev. I'm never sure about the word luxury. Luxury is like a luxury car or a luxury sofa or something luxurious. It was the same really when I've got a friend that fantastic florist. I've never quite understood though. She says I do luxury flowers. I don't do flowers. I do luxury flowers. I think. What's the difference? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, moving on. This one is from Isabella Gorloff. Now, hello to you both. Love the show, etc. I wrote my question in the Facebook group a couple of months ago, but I guess it didn't show, so I'm trying again here. I have a question on the same note as Sandro 2 episodes ago. So this wasn't long ago, actually, about getting better. I'm a family photographer and struggle to take photos that have not been taken before, that are creative and artful. In my opinion, I did better on this aspect a couple of years ago. My whole business idea is family art, and therefore I'd like to get better in taking artful family pictures. Do you have any recommendations on how to practice and also how to take the photos nobody's taken before? There's a technical question as well. We'll come to that one in a moment. Let's go for, first of all, making photographs that haven't been made before, which I think reinventing a wheel is very, very difficult. I sometimes wonder, and I'll use a music analogy here, I'm thinking, how do musicians actually write songs that are truly different from each other? I mean, I know occasionally you get one where you'll say, oh, that sounds like so-and-so, or one will end up in court because it sounds too familiar. But on the whole, they don't, do they? They are always a little bit different. And my answer to it would be that it's not the photograph that you're trying to take in a different way. Whatever angle you do, whether you're down low, up high, behind a chair, whatever, because that's all been done before. The difference is the family and the people that you're with. And it's the same with weddings. Weddings are generally a similar format, aren't they, Kev? Well, not all, I know, but generally a similar format. But it's not the wedding, it's the people that make the photographs different. Or am I being a bit simplistic about that?
No, I think, yes. No, you're definitely not being simplistic, and I totally agree with you. How do you make something different from everybody else? Well, it's impossible, I think. It's hard to answer this question because every photo is different in that respect. But as I always say to people, if I told 5 people to go outside and take photos, they would, of cars, they'd probably all come back with very similar things. But if I said go out and take photos of, cars that are going around a corner or something, then they'd all have a very different idea of what going around a corner means and how it would look. And so you're right. It's the content of the images that really make it different. I think, when it comes to, because I think Isabella is a family photographer rather than weddings, I think perhaps what she's thinking more about is the poses and, the way that people kind of appear in the images. And my My answer to that probably will be the reason why you see the similar poses lots and lots from lots of family photographers is because that's what clients want and it works. And, you know, if you want to make a business of selling those kind of family photos, certainly from a portrait point of view, then, you know, take inspiration from those ones that are working and the ones that people do tend to want. You can get things like flow posing guides and stuff like that. Jerry Cohonis does a set, I think, for families or for groups at least, that will give you different ideas. But ultimately, it all comes down to things like hand placement, head movement, that kind of stuff, doesn't it? So yeah, I mean, good luck, but you know, trying to find a completely unique angle on family photo, portrait photo, group photo, it's not going to happen.
Oh, Kev, I was looking up. I think we both liked her work, actually. I'm not sure whether the website's still there. Do you remember Nikki Boone?
Yeah, I do remember Nikki. Yeah, but that was documentary family photography, which is very different.
But I always think of that as very artful, though.
Well, it was artful in the edit, wasn't it? Yeah. And, you know, it's artful in terms of where she was in the world, the little farm that she lived on in New Zealand. Every edit was identical, black and white. Her use of light was spot on. But mostly it was the moment within the picture, you know, so... Yeah, I think that it depends really, Isabella, on what you're trying to achieve. You know, is it family photos that will sell well and are posed photos, etc., or are you looking to do something a little bit more Nikki Boone-like? In which case, you know, you have to go a little bit beyond thinking about the people within it and thinking about, you know, the stylization of the pictures in terms of where they are, what they're doing. Is there a similarity in them? Is the edit the same? Are you always taking them at the same time of the day? All of that kind of stuff does elevate it into that kind of luxury area, if you like, because, you know, you're not going to get that kind of Nikki Boone effect if you're in you're in somebody's flat in a Manchester high rise. That's just the fact of it. So, you know, there's all kinds of elements from a business point of view as well as just what happens in the photo itself.
I have a technical question as well, says Isabella. I have an XT5 and was yesterday trying to take some out-of-focus images of water ripples to make overlays for other photos. I put the camera in manual, but the damn thing focused perfectly on the ripples every single time, though I'm manually unfocused. You know, if you were trying to focus on them, guess what it would do? Is it not possible to focus manually and intentionally wrongly? The lens was the Fuji 56mm 1.2, but it's the same with all of my lenses, besides Lens Baby with manual focus only. Love from Isabella in Sweden. Well, I don't understand why you can't unfocus a lens, Kev. I'm at sea with this one as well as Isabella.
The 56 1.2. Well, the only thing I can think of is maybe the aperture was too narrow. So, you know, if it's at f1.2, it's still going to effectively be a narrow focus point, and maybe it's on the ripple in the background. You know, I'd maybe bump out the aperture to on that lens, probably f8 or something, maybe to get more of a kind of blurry effect to it. But yeah, I don't see any reason why it should be automatically focusing as long as you're definitely in manual focus mode. Now, I'm pretty sure Isabella will know this, but some people I have come across on my workshop, some people think that manual focus mode on Fujifilm cameras is when you are in manual mode. So, i.e. when you're taking control of aperture, shutter speed and ISO.
Yeah.
Whereas actually there's a little switch, unless you're on one of those ridiculous XH2 cameras, there's a switch on the XT5 that allows you to switch between manual and single and continuous.
Can I just say, by the way, if you are on one of those, as Kev says, ridiculous XH2 thingies, there's a button in the same place where the switch is. You just press the button in and you make your choice.
And then you've got to wiggle your fingers about.
Yeah, but it takes no time, Kev.
No, stupid. So I don't know, Isabella, really ultimately is the answer to that. I'm racking my brains to think if there's any menu settings that would override that. And of course it's not a clutch lens, so it's not like the original 23 f1.4, which introduced issues with that, or confusions with that. So yeah, pass. I will put my thinking cap on though.
Yeah. Right. While your thinking cap is going on, I think we've got time for another couple. Facebook, Kev.
Joseph Abad says, "Hi gents, hypothetical question. Which discontinued Fuji camera in the past 15 years would you personally like to see rebooted?"
X Pro 2.
Well, that's not discontinued though, is it?
Well, they're not making X Pro 2s anymore, are they?
No, but I think what he means is which ones of the range that they're not making. I presume that's what he means.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Because you could buy an X Pro 2 second hand.
Well, yeah, but you can buy anything second hand, Kev. Nothing's discontinued
I think
in that respect.
more along what he's thinking is things like the X70, XF10, that kind of stuff, where there seems to be no future of those lines. That's what I think he's thinking.
I thought he just meant a camera that's no longer being made, in which case or even an X Pro 1, but there's a range of X Pros, so that's not what he means, is it?
I mean, he might be, but that's not how I'm reading it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So you could go for the X Pro 2. So anyway, the principle's the same. So X Pro 5, X Pro 4, whatever comes at some point in the near future, hopefully, or doesn't come, we don't know about the X Pro, but X70, I would love to see something done with that range of camera.
Why? What was it about that camera?
Because it was tiny and made beautiful pictures and was just such an ease to use. I loved it. I shot some of my most favorite pictures with that little X70. I still use it now. It's, we've talked about it a million times. It landed the same day as the X Pro 2, I think, or it might be in the X Pro 3. No, it was the X Pro 2.
Right.
So the marketing of it was a little bit lost in the noise, and it was targeted at kind of John Lewis camera buyers rather than professional street photographers. But now it's an iconic camera. But I still have mine. It still works. Battered to bits, but it still works. That's the one I would choose.
Amy Milstein. Our friend Amy, Kev. She is in Dublin at the moment. As we are recording this, we're recording on Monday the 4th of November. It will go out on Monday 4th of November. Amy has come to Dublin to escape the American elections. Quote from Amy. So she's in Dublin, and I've made her this week's guest on the 1000 Weddings podcast as well. While she was in, so she's a guest on that show. But so she could have nipped across from Dublin to see us in Malmesbury / Newbury / London. She says, "I wish I was asking this question in person, but unfortunately the flights to London cost more than an email." But you're in Dublin, Amy. You could pop across. We all shoot with Fuji cameras, and there's one quirk that I always encounter, and that at least one friend got so fed up with that they switched from Fuji back to Canon. So I'd be interested in your thoughts on this one. When you put the X-T5 on all auto, for purposes of this example, the camera will always reduce the shutter speed before raising the ISO. Keep up with me on this one, Kev. Which I find really odd, considering that dropping to 1/30th of a second and staying at a low ISO means sometimes blur when you don't want it, and the cameras produce such high quality image at higher ISOs, that it would make more sense for the shutter speed to remain steady and the ISO to increase. Is this quirk the same with all Fujifilm cameras? And can you speak to the good people in Japan about it? From Amy. Did you keep up with me there, Kev? Because you do the technical stuff, and sometimes it's easier for you to read this than have it read to you. But I think you're there, are you? I can hear some sort of whirring with Kev's brain going on.
I don't know the reason why it does one before the other, but I would imagine there's a good reason for it. And I always say to people when it comes to auto everything, well, certainly auto ISO, and if you're using auto ISO to control the shutter speed, always remember that the minimum shutter speed is not a minimum shutter speed, it's a recommended minimum shutter speed. So if you set your camera to shoot at a minimum of 1/125th, for example, the camera will lower that if it can't get the exposure using the given ISO parameters. So Amy's right in that it won't ever bust out of the ISO parameters that you give it, but it will lower the shutter speed if it has to. I've never ever thought of that as being weird or had any problems with it at all, ever, not once. No. But I think that's the way that that's what Amy's trying to refer to, the fact that the minimum shutter speed is not a minimum shutter speed, it's a recommended minimum shutter speed. And you will know it because the shutter speed display in the viewfinder, electronic or optical viewfinder, depending on which camera you're using, will change color. So the camera is saying to you, look, right, I'm going to take this picture, but I'm warning you that I'm having to use a lower shutter speed than you put in your minimum shutter speed in the auto ISO.
And the other question was, can you speak to the good people of Japan about it? Do you need to? No. I
don't speak to them anymore.
No. Do you? Wow, Kev. Are they? Have you stopped sending Christmas cards to each other?
No, I don't have communications with them really. I mean, I'm still very good friends with Andreas, and still Facebook friends with all of my pals in Japan and everything. But I'm not on that. I'm not in that inner circle where they ask questions and send questionnaires out to. I'm sure they do it to Emily and Mr. Whisper and all that kind of stuff as they did with me before, which is great. So different eyes on different ideas, isn't it? So they get these questionnaires. What do you think we should do with this? Boom, 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 boom.
Amy, you might need to write to Emily Renier.
I would never. I just used to cross out all the questions and just write X70 on everything.
Did you? Oh, no wonder though. If Kev writes X70 one more time, we're getting rid of him. There we are. There's the story behind it. And where would you go? Because Amy's in, and she might well listen to this before she travels back home. So you love Dublin. Where would you photograph in Dublin, Kev? Where would you go with your?
Actually, I don't love Dublin. I've been to Dublin a lot of times.
Right.
Dublin, as much I love Ireland, and there's a whole load of Ireland that is beautiful and worth exploring. Dublin itself, to me, is a little bit like Bristol. I've got to say.
What?
Just with a lot of, let's call it annoying. If you're in the very tourist areas, kind of Temple Bar area and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, stag party.
The amount of, honestly, I was there only 2 weeks ago on rugby tour, judo tour.
But you were part of that problem then, Kev. Oh, no, not another judo
I just couldn't do it. I said, I'm not going there. We're going to have to go somewhere else. So I couldn't deal with the constant, and it's always the same it's the same man. They all look the same. They're like a 50s, 60s hipster old man, grey beard, playing I've been a wild rover constantly in every single bar. Oh my God. I was absolutely doing head in. So, but Dublin itself, yes. I mean, there is some elements of history to it if you can dig them out. But I would personally myself step outside of the city and go explore the rest of Ireland because it's absolutely wonderful.
I've only just spotted this, by the way, about Amy. If you go to amymilstein.com, so Milstein. Whenever I spell something out like that, I want to go Mouse. Are you there? Mm-hmm. Are you on the website? Right. Look at the logo, top left-hand corner. I think that's inspired. AMP. So aperture, manual, and how she's got it as the, what would you call that? One of the control dials.
The control dial. That is very clear. I'd never noticed that before.
I think
that is very, very.
At the moment, you might be saying, "What? I can't see that." Well, you'll have to go to the website. I think that's a very, very creative logo. Yeah, brilliant. And that's it for this time, Kev. I was about to say, what are you up to? But I think you're going to say more of the same, really. I'm just going to sit here in my white Y fronts and watch the world out of my window. Is that roughly it?
That's basically it. Yeah.
Because I did say right at the start of the show, what is a day in the life of Kev? So this brings it full circle. What is a day in the life of Kev then?
Well, today you made me come into the office to record the podcast.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
So I'll stay here for a bit. Actually, I've got quite a lot of admin to do, but I haven't got emails and stuff. And then I'll do a little bit more of the online course, and that's basically my days at the moment. I don't have any photography jobs on. I've got a couple of workshops coming up and stuff, but yeah, ultimately, that's it.
Life is sweet, Kev. Life is sweet. Keep sending in your questions. Go via the Facebook page. and leave your questions in there. Or you can send them to the email address, which is click@fujicast.co.uk. click at fujicast.co.uk. Sorry, Kev, I was looking at Amy's amazing logo, thinking that's inspired, that's inspired. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.